Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. After nearly 2 decades riding bareback horses competitively, Randy Taylor dedicated his life to highlighting the accomplishments of Native rodeo athletes. Known as the Cherokee Cowboy, Taylor just won the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association's highest award for broadcasters. His nationally syndicated show, Word with a Champ, brings the voices of veteran and up-and-coming rodeo stars to audiences all over the country. Taylor is our December Native in the Spotlight, and we'll hear from him after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. The Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation, neighboring Fountain Hills, Arizona, recently dealt with reports of, quote, aggressive dogs running loose, resulting in attacks that prompted its police department to increase patrols while urging the public to stay away. KJZZ's Gabriel Pietrozio reports.
2 tribal members were bitten last week and are now recovering from non-lethal injuries, according to Acting Chief of Police Jesse Puffer.
We did catch 3 out of 4 dogs.
And incidents like this are not uncommon on tribal lands, with canines roaming their 24,000-acre reservation. Some are seen as strays, often dogs that are dumped there by owners who do not wish to keep them, while others are claimed by tribal members as pets.
We also have a dog ordinance, too, so people, they get cited for that as well. Depending on what the nature is, it could be anywhere from, $150 fine, and it can be higher if you can't show record of vaccination and also licensing.
For National Native News, I'm Gabriel Pietrozio.
The documentary Remaining Native tracks Yerington, Nevada Paiute tribal member Koo Stevens as he confronts the horror of what his great-grandfather went through in boarding school. Stevens created a remembrance run tracking the same route his great-grandfather took to escape boarding school. KNPR's Jimmy Romo attended a screening of the film and brings us this report. And to note, this story includes accounts of violence against children.
In 1913, government officials ripped 8-year-old Yerington Paiute tribe member Frank Quinn from his family and placed him in the Stewart Indian boarding school near Carson City. As a part of her history PhD studies at UNLV, Annie Delgado researches what actually happened to Native children in the U.S. boarding school system.
The early years are just filled with trauma and abuse and pain and just assimilation.
Many students try to escape the abuse. Quinn's great-grandson, Koo Stevens, is the protagonist in the documentary Remaining Native. In the film, viewers learned, along with Stevens, the story of his great-grandfather. To remember the courage of Native students who tried to escape, Stevens organized a remembrance run from Yerington to the Stewart Indian School.
Well, a local athlete from a smaller school here in northern Nevada is getting national attention for what he does both in his sport and for his people.
The first run took place in 2021, followed by 3 others. The route marked the same 50-mile run Quinn took to go back home.
I'm going to retrace the footsteps of my great-grandfather.
Here's Stevens.
They were running, they were sweating, bleeding. I think of this guy, Russell, who I consider just like an uncle, broke both of his feet, fractured them by the end of the run. And he did all 50 miles.
In the most recent class action lawsuit, the Wichita and affiliated tribes and the Washoe tribes of Nevada and California filed a case against the federal government in May. They were suing over misused funds. Currently, the sovereign nations are requesting that the U.S. itemize a $23 billion trust fund, established by pressuring Native nations to sign agreements. Most of the treaties would promise that the U.S. would educate indigenous children in exchange for their land. But that wasn't what happened.
The United States government itself knows that these schools did not educate the way they intended to educate.
The communal trauma of boarding schools still affects indigenous families across the nation. The film Remaining Native is still available for community screenings.
That was Jimmy Romo reporting. The Bridging Agency Data Gaps and Ensuring Safety for Native Communities Act has passed the U.S. Senate. It supports the recruitment and retention of BIA law enforcement officers, bolsters federal missing persons resources, and gives tribes and states tools to combat MMIW. The legislation is led by Senators Catherine Cortez Masto, John Hoeven, Ruben Gallego, and Mike Rounds. I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
Professional Native News is produced by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation, with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Support by AARP, whose Family Caregiver Resource Guide is available to caregivers by calling 877-333-5885 or at aarp.org/caregiver-resources. Support from Clarkson Potter, publisher of Turtle Island, Foods and Traditions of the Indigenous Peoples of North America by Native American chef Sean Sherman. With ancestral and modern recipes, this cookbook showcases diverse foodways of the continent's regions.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. The Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association just recognized Randy Taylor at the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas. The award is for his decades of highlighting the accomplishments of indigenous rodeo athletes with his nationally syndicated show, Word with a Champ. It's one of the major milestones for the Cherokee Cowboy, whose dedicated passion is with his extended family of rodeo athletes, organizers, businesses, and fans. Taylor started as a bareback rider as a teenager. He had a short stint as a chiropractor, but rodeo quickly called him back. No pun intended. And for the last 3 decades, he's been a professional rodeo announcer, keeping tabs on generations of indigenous athletes and changes in the sport. Randy Taylor, Cherokee Cowboy, is our December Native in the Spotlight. If you have questions or comments for him, you can join the conversation. Call 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Joining me now from Menno, South Dakota, is Randy Taylor, rodeo announcer and host of Word with a Champ, a 5-minute rodeo news show on our affiliated network, Native Voice One. He is a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. Randy, hello, and welcome back to Native America Calling.
OCO, and hello, Sean. It's good to be with you.
It's always great to have you on the show, Randy, and congratulations on your PRCA Award for Excellence in Broadcast Journalism. What does this award mean for your work as a broadcaster?
It feels good. You know, it's something that I have been passionate about since I had a broadcasting class at the University of Wyoming in Laramie. And I really liked listening to baseball games while I was traveling and driving by myself rodeoing, and I got a big kick out of the announcers. And I thought, you know, that would be so fun to do that. And with the help of NB1 and Nola Daves Moses and Bert Poley, we haven't broadcast the World Series, but we've broadcast the Indian National Finals Rodeo. And then our program started in about 2010, 2011 with Word with the Champ, and we've been covering cowboys. And this award brings it kind of full circle to an effort and a passion that has lasted quite some time. I started going to the National Finals Rodeo to cover our Indian Cowboys in '91. That was before I had Native Voice One, and we did each station one at a time, sometimes 17 to 32 stations. So there has been a lot of effort in this, and it's just out of passion. It's not really an income. It's something that I've enjoyed doing and wanted to provide positive programming and really recruit the youth into our sport is my main goal, but I realize that the picture is much broader than that. But this award makes me think of all those things I did in starting with KILI, the voice of the Lakota Nation, and Tom Casey and all of those that were so good to me and gave me an opportunity. And I just appreciate all of the people we've met on our journey.
Well, you just shared it's been about 15 years since you started Word with a Champ. What prompted you to start the show? And looking back, when you first started, did you imagine you'd still be doing it 15 years later?
I don't know that I had, probably. I I see that the rodeo announcers last. If their mind is good and their voice is good, which can be a blessing from youth until death, that it can work. And to think that I would be doing this now, I suppose that I set those goals. I have goals of what I want to achieve. I guess I really never thought about the longevity of it. Like Chris Ledoux saying, live for today and forget about tomorrow. It's the code or the motto of a bareback rider. And I guess I probably had that motto, but in later years, I have goals and I have some things that I would still like to accomplish. It's fun to still be doing it. We've seen a lot of generations of rodeo cowboys and cowgirls.
Well, let's listen to a recent interview you did with Word with a Champ. This is Tyson Cardinal, ranch manager for C5 Rodeo, and this will give our listeners who haven't heard you yet an idea of what you do.
Yes, sir.
Our guest today is a young man that is of Cree descent from the First Nations in Canada, Tyson Cardinal. Hello, Tyson. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Randy. It's happy to be here.
Tell us your story.
Well, grew up on a small reserve called Goodfish Lake. Always been around the rodeo scene. All my uncles all did it and raised bucking horses, so I was always around it. More so when I got older, when I realized that that's what I wanted to do. After playing sports and this and that, I really got into rodeo, and everything kind of just fell into my lap and worked out good for me, and just kind of blessed how everything worked out for me.
Yes, sir. You've been, what I understand, a flank man and a pickup man. Can you describe those jobs to people that may not know?
Yeah, your flank man and your pickup man will make your horses buck. And I don't think a lot of people realize how important a flank man or a pickup man is. You got to know your horses to what they feel. When you flank them enough, you're going to know what they like, if they like a tighter flank or a loose flank. And your pickup men, when you're out there and you're reading them horses, watching what lead they're going to go on or what lead you want to take them into, so they come around and the boys could have a better score. That you could shorten them up if you wanted to, you know what I mean, just by stepping away from them, So there's a lot to it, more than people think.
It's interesting to me, if you looked out across the pasture and saw a bunch of horses, you really couldn't tell that one's a cutting horse, that one's a bucking horse, that one's a roping horse, but they are unique in their individual talent and their athletes. And sometimes you have an athlete like F13 Virgil. Tell us all about that superstar.
Yeah, he the greatest horse of all time, I think. I don't know if there's any horse that had that many 90-plus rides on him. He's 18 years old and he still does it. Like all summer, people thought he was going to slow down, but man, he was banging all summer. It was 90s and the bronc riding. We threw him in the bronc riding this year. I don't think he wants to slow down, and it'd be a tough day when we retire him, because I know he's going to be looking at us leaving the yard, Yeah, so he's something else. He's a superstar. I do a lot of stuff with him, and I was told that he has the body of a 3-year-old colt right now with his ligaments, his muscles. He has no arthritis. He has no gut issues. So I do a lot of stuff with him to make sure that he's on top of his game.
That is a large tribute to you and the care and the love that you provide those horses. And he is amazing in the fact that he is one of less than a handful, like 3 or 4, that have won the Bucking Horse of the Year, not only in the bareback bronc riding, but in the saddle bronc riding too, which he won this year. The saddle bronc ERCA Bucking Horse of the Year at 18.
Yeah, 18 years old. Yeah, I think I wasn't really shocked. I think he deserved it because he's so good. But at 18, I think I was more proud than anything of him, because we work hard, and like you said, I put a lot of work into him, and a lot of money goes into him from Vern, my boss, and he doesn't even question me. Just let it roll, whatever I need to do to make him the healthiest horse, and that's what we do. And chiropractors and everything, I get it all done on Virgil, and a lot of work into it, but we get a lot out of him, so we're pretty proud of him.
I always end my episodes, Tyson, with a question for the youth. What could you share with them that you have learned that might help them assist an animal or find a niche in sports like you have and take them to the top like you are with C5 Rodeo Company of the First Nations and the Cree tribe in Canada?
Well, you have to work hard. I don't know if I should say this, but my grandpa always said you have to work 10 times harder than the white man, and you have to work super hard to get recognized, especially in the rodeo world. It was really tough when we first started, and everyone could tell you that we weren't welcomed. They didn't want us around, but here we are. stuffing it down their throats now. It feels good to walk down to the NFR. I have the long hair. I'm very proud to be Native, and I'm very, very proud of where I came from, this small little reserve, But you have to work hard. Right when you wake up till you go to bed, you got to keep thinking of it, keep it on your mind and work, or else nothing's going to work out for you.
And we are very proud of you. God bless you, and we wish you continued success. Tyson Cardinal, Cree Indian cowboy from the First Nations in Canada, with one of the best bucking horses in the world. Thank you, Tyson.
Thank you.
That's good stuff, Randy. And listeners, they can tell just how much you care about the sport. And Randy, after all these years, what is it like to go to all these different rodeos and talk to so many people who are involved?
Oh, man, it is a blessing. And that interview almost brings a tear to my eye because I did not know Tyson. I saw him. And then at the Indian National Finals Rodeo, where that interview occurred at the South Point, I spent maybe 8 minutes with him. And then we just got back last night from Las Vegas after a couple of weeks, and I got to know Tyson at the Bronc Riding Nations banquet. And at our award, we sat at our table together. They sat Tyson's family and his lovely fiance and his sister and my wife and Nola Daves Moses together. And we had a seat for Patrick Paquinot from the Mandan, Hadassah, and Arikaraw. And we got acquainted with families. And that horse is one of three very special horses. I was the first rider when the National Finals Rodeo, it started in 59 in Dallas, moved to Los Angeles, and then it found a home in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma until 1984. And it moved to Las Vegas in 1985. And I was the first gunner. I was 15th in the bareback riding in the world standings, and you go from 15th to first. And the horse that I got on was Lonesome Me from Rex Logan, I believe in British Columbia. And that horse was purchased by Calgary, and I placed third. So a Cherokee cowboy and a Canadian horse started the national finals in rodeo. We celebrate 40 years ago this past couple of weeks. And that horse went on to win the halter, as they say, or the gold buckle in bucking horses for the best in the bareback bronc riding for a year and the best in saddle bronc riding. Another one named Kingsway Skull from Vern Franklin, I believe, of Alberta, won that award. And then this horse we're talking about, won it not once but twice in the bareback riding, and then once in the saddle bronc riding this year. Yeah. And they retired that horse Saturday night.
Amazing. Randy, we're going to have to take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue this conversation. And listeners, if you would like to talk with the Cherokee cowboy, Randy Taylor, he is on our show today. Give us a call, 1-800-99-NATIVE. Rodeo fans, I'm talking to you, 1-800-99-NATIVE. A unique building in New York, designed by a Northern Arapaho architect, is on this year's list of most endangered places. The list also includes the entire Pamunkey Reservation in Virginia, whose land is threatened by increasing storms and rising sea levels. We'll hear more about significant places under threat on the next Native America Calling.
Repatriation is the return of ancestors and stolen culture. The Association on American Indian Affairs is hosting the 11th annual Repatriation Conference, Feeding the Fire, Advancing the Movement, in February 2026. This fully virtual conference will offer small group interactive workshops, strategies, networking, and more to advance domestic and international repatriation. More at Indian-Affairs.org. The association supports this show.
You're listening to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce, and I'm talking with Randy Taylor, Cherokee rodeo announcer and broadcaster. He is our December Native in the Spotlight. If you have a question or comments for Randy, give us a call. Join this conversation. We're at 1-800-996-2848. How important is rodeo to your family or Native community? Let us know. 1-800-99-NATIVE. And you can also hear all the episodes of Word with a Champ and NFR Reports on the NV1 app. Check it out. Randy, before we went to break, you had mentioned that the National Finals Rodeo had just wrapped up this weekend. And of course, the famous bucking horse Virgil was retired. And of course, you were there. But for someone who's not maybe very familiar with rodeo, tell us more. What is the significance of this event, and what does it take for a competitor to make it there?
This is the World Series of our sport. It's equivalent to the Super Bowl, only it's 10 performances, 10 rounds. It's equivalent to Major League Baseball's World Series, only it's longer. I mean, it is something else. It is very, very special. The National Finals Rodeo helps determine a world champion. For a cowboy to get there, they must compete all year long, and the season is more than a year almost. The season ended in September, and then we had the National Finals Rodeo in December. But the 2026 season started in October of 2025. I mean, it's the shortest world championship recognized in sports, and it's a year-long thing. They're limited, if you can imagine it being called a limit, to 75 to 125 rodeos, depending on the event. So if you're in the bareback bronc riding, you might be limited to 100 rodeos and get on 130, 140 horses throughout a year. So it's a long season, like a major leaguer, and it's 12 months. To qualify for the Super Bowl or the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo, you need to be in the top 15 by money won. $1 is a point. If you go to a little several $1,000 added money rodeo and win $948, that's 948 points, and then you go to Houston and win 48,000, that's 48,000 towards your credit to be in the top 15. Then once you get to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo, each round pays $36,677 for first and 95 cents, and the best on 10 pays $94,035.67. And you add your season plus what you make at the Wrangler NFR in 10 rounds up against the top 15 in the world to determine the world champion. And so it came down to the 10th round, and I think every event, round number 9, there was not a single event that was cinched. It came down to the final 3.2 seconds in the steer wrestling and the final 8 seconds in the bareback, saddle bronc, and bull riding. I mean, it's really easy to sell. I mean, it's very exciting. And our First Nations bucking horse was wonderful. They finished second on him with Australian Damian Brennan in the 10th round of the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. Our Cowboys did well all year and all week long. We can be very proud of our indigenous contingency.
And Randy, you made it to NFR in 1985 as a competitor. What was that year like for you? You're a bareback rider.
It was great. It was my lifelong goal. I started riding bucking horses when I was 13. I started riding just regular horses when I was 7. I wanted to be a bull rider, and that didn't work. But the bareback riding seemed to be my sport, my event. And to reach that pinnacle was outstanding. I had an excavating company, and after I went to the University of Wyoming on a rodeo and wrestling scholarship, and then went back home and was competing and working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and taking off and rodeoing the rest of the time. And I had some money with my company. And then Bruce Ford asked me if I wanted to rodeo, and I had to move to Colorado with the 5-time champ of the world and let go of my excavating company and let go of my security. And that was a challenge, and I got her done and traveled and was making it and buying plane tickets with money earned, riding bucking horses, and just living the life. And in the year I made it, all three of us, Bob Logue, 9-time qualifier, Bruce Ford, I think qualified 18 times and won 5 world titles. All three of us made it. And it was a big deal that year because it moved from Oklahoma City, and it's home. Clem McSpadden, the Cherokee from Rogers County, where I was raised, had a big to do with it moving to Las Vegas. The desert was desolate in December, And when when the NFR went there, it lit it up. It really helped that city grow. And it was an honor to be there, and it was special. That first horse jumped and kicked, and I placed. And Marty Jandrew, a Lower Brule Sioux, was the first out. He was 15th in the bronc riding, and he got on a South Dakota horse. He's from South Dakota, the Anchor K, and he won the round. So it's, the bareback bucking horses started out with two American Indian cowboys, yours truly and Marty Jandrew. And that's where she kicked off. And 40 years later, we're still celebrating that championship competition in the City of Lights. It's fun. It means a lot. It'd be like you have a Super Bowl ring on your finger. It's timeless.
Sure. No, I mean, this history you're providing, it just sounds beyond exciting. Super, super cool stuff. Randy, do you come from a family of rodeo competitors? What got you started initially?
Then when Dad bought me that horse, when I was 7, he was a dirt track racing car driver. He was a phenomenal builder, an amazing builder. He went to Oklahoma State and got a degree in metallurgy and built chassis before factory chassis, where he would make that race car sit down and turn left. And then he hired a motorman. And then as a driver, they called him, he was a fearless shoe, as they say. And he was amazing. And it's a horsepower. And my job was to clean the shop every day after school. Well, I don't like oil on my hands, and I couldn't make an A in machine shop class to save my life. And so when he bought me a horse, I'd get home and get on that horse and get out of there. So that's how I got started. And Dad was special. He showed me a lot how to win, how to be dedicated, how to be unique. He was a buyer for Williams Brothers Pipeline Company and would ride a Triumph motorcycle to work and have a 3-piece suit on. The tie was flying out back, and he was just the cat. He was the cat's meow, And so I came from a sporting family, and Mom was amazing, supporting him, and every checkered flag he got. A large part of that success was Mom, with keeping pit crew fed at the shop attached to the house, and running parts. And so just the family in sports is my background.
Now, you shared earlier you went to Wyoming as both a rodeo and a wrestler. Rodeo athlete and a wrestler. You had scholarship. If I'm not mistaken, those seasons, they cross over a little bit. How did your wrestling coach feel about you out there on bucking horses? He must have had concerns there.
Well, the National Intercollegiate Rodeo Association in the Central Rocky Mountain region of Wyoming and Colorado had a fall and a spring season, and then wrestling fit right in between. So on one hand, he knew we were staying out of trouble and staying in shape, and we were focused on sports. On another hand, my partner, Jerry LaValle, who lettered 8 times, was a year older than I. He lettered 4 in wrestling and 4 in rodeo, which is pretty amazing. I don't think many people do that. We were on the way to go to school after our summer rodeo run, and I had gotten hurt in my shoulder, and we were going to a wrestling camp to coach, probably to get some academic credits. And I had my right shoulder in a sling, and on the way up there, he hurt his left bicep, tore it off, and he had his left arm in a sling, and we showed up to wrestling camp both in slings, and I don't think coach was real happy that
day. Okay, now you've talked a lot about the prize money here, and that's the thing about this sport. You got to win. To stay in it, you got to win. You got to make money. But how hard is it for you or any rodeo athlete to make it in this sport financially, to be able to continue year after year to compete and provide for yourself and maybe a family too?
It is so beautiful to watch it grow. Oh my goodness. When I qualified for the finals in 1985, I made $29,800 something bucks. These rounds, what did I say, $36,667. They pay more than I made all year long. Of course, the money's different. The currency's a little different, but it's wonderful to see. They added 1.8 million in 85, and this year they added 13.5 million for the contestants, and then another 5 million for the stock, for the bucking horses and bulls. And I'm sure the timed events fall in there too. So it's good to see, because people are able to make investments and raise families and buy land and cattle or whatever they want to, pursue. Where back in the day, there was a handful of people that made some good money, but much of it was a bachelor living. And then the timed event people, they have those rigs, and you've got to have a barn and a fence and a vet, and their expenses are high. But it's good to see the big money in our sport that can draw a feeder program and obtain college scholarships, and we can see some cowboys and cowgirls making a living and really doing well. It's beautiful.
And Randy, in the midst of all of this rodeo action, you were a chiropractor for a number of years, and I'm interested in learning more about how that came about. You earned a degree in chiropractic medicine. What drew you to that field?
Well, when you live in the Midwest, many times you might move to Dallas and get an apartment next to the airport because you're so nomadic and you can be right there. And I was going to the chiropractor school like going to get a cheap haircut on Mondays and Tuesdays when I was in my apartment. And I got, it was time for me to look at life after rodeo, and I didn't want to dig fence posts for a living. And I thought, now what are you going to do? And I was just intrigued by the camaraderie of Parker College of Chiropractic and my intern chiropractor. And and I kept getting hurt. 85, I made the finals, got hurt in 86, 87, 88, 89. I was driving by Laramie and I wanted to finish my degree, and I really drove in and enrolled on a whim, and went back out and won $2,700 in a couple of weeks, and it set me up for the winter to finish college. And the wrestling team, Joe Dowler and the rodeo coach, Dr. Tom Dunn and Pete Burns said, we'll pay for your tuition and your room and board for a semester. And I made the dean's list, and they said, we will finish you out. And so I didn't step on a mat or get on a horse, and they helped me finish my education. And in the same time, I obtained my prerequisites for chiropractic school, and then moved to Dallas and finished them and went to chiropractic school. And it was great in Dallas because you can ride a bucking horse somewhere and be back at your apartment that night. There's lots of rodeos around the DFW Metroplex area. And so some of my classmates were like having to do all night security jobs and studying, and I could go make several $100,000 in 8 seconds around there and help me get through school. It was good. I was more like a pool shark instead of chasing points on the circuit.
And then what led you back to the sport of rodeo?
The people, the horses, the spirit of the horse. I missed it. I missed the people. They're special. The family of the great sport is very tight knit. And back in the day before we had cell phones, we depended on each other. You say, I'm going to meet you by the water fountain in Milwaukee in 3 weeks. You were there and picked them up, or they were there. And I just missed the camaraderie of it. And of course, the excitement of watching a horse jump as high as it can and kick as hard as it can, and seeing a man get tapped off and dance with that horse to its utmost capacity, or see a beautiful bull ride or a timed event guy just is lacing on one in just a few seconds, or the grace of the barrel race. I just missed it. And I had my summers full. Harlan Gunville started hiring me to announce Indian rodeos, and I moved to South Dakota to serve those, and found a chiropractic clinic to serve. And then I raced at a sprint car track. I announced at a sprint car racing track, and the man that owned the track had a monster truck company, and he put me on a jet every Thursday, and I got off that jet every Sunday all winter long. So I had my summers full of rodeos, and my winters now full of monster trucks, and I'm like, boy, I can do this. And here we go, and here we are. And now it's mostly rodeo. I do some motorsports every now and then, but it's mostly rodeo.
Is that different doing a monster truck show or a sprint car race as opposed to rodeo? Or is it sports announcing pretty much sports announcing, whatever the sport it is?
There's similarities and there's differences. I mean, the monster trucks are a kid's delight. It's the championship wrestling of motorsports, you know. So there's a lot of the Bigfoot's coming, the ground's already shaking. You know, there's a lot of that, you know. And then the rodeo sport is you've got to take care of sponsors. They're tedious. And the rodeo sports, a monster truck show, I might have 8 trucks. In a rodeo sport, I've got to do homework on 100 bulls and 80 horses and 300 contestants. I mean, it's tedious. And then you work with the sponsor and the clown and you got the sponsors and the committee and it's you know, it took a long time to learn how to do. But I think they complement each other, and I have been blessed to be able to transfer what I've learned in motorsports to rodeo and vice versa. And so I think it's been an edge for me.
Let's get some calls going here. The phone number, 1-800-99-NATIVE. We're talking right now with Randy Taylor, the Cherokee Cowboy. What a life. Rodeo competitor, announcer, sports broadcaster, not just rodeo, sprint cars, monster trucks, also a career as a chiropractor, college wrestler, in addition to being a rodeo athlete. Just so much life experience. And if you've got a question or you just want to give a shout out to Randy Taylor, you can do that by giving us a call at our Albuquerque, New Mexico studio hotline, 1-800-996-2848. That number again is 1-800-99-NATIVE. We're going to take another short break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more with Randy Taylor about the world of rodeo, about his show, Word with a Champ, and just any other insights he can offer to our listeners today here on Native America Calling. So stay with us and pick up that phone. Give us a call. I think we got the phone lines open, and we can get you on the air right away. If you've got a message or a question for Randy, 1-800-99-NATIVE. That's the number. Give us a call, 1-800-99-NATIVE.
The Indian Arts and Crafts Board promotes Indian artists of federally recognized tribes through its online source directory. Information on this no-charge opportunity available at doi.gov/IACB, who support this program.
Kaufman & Associates has over 35 years of experience serving Indian country, supporting growth, transformation, and sustainability of tribal programs. More at kaufmaninc.com, KAUFFMANINC.com.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce, and we're talking with Randy Taylor today. He is a longtime rodeo announcer. That means you might have heard him announcing and commentating at one of the rodeos in and around Indian country that you attended this year. You can join this conversation today with a comment or question for Randy by calling 1-800-996-2848. That number again, 1-800-996-2848. And remember, you can also hear all the episodes of Word with a Champ and NFR Reports by listening to the NV1 app. Randy, we talked earlier, you talked a lot about the importance of the horses and the bulls, and they're also athletes and they get recognized. And of course, it was a very special year, 2025, for one native rough stock company. Is it common for rough stock companies to be native owned?
Yes, sir. And we have some good ones. I mean, it just makes sense. We've been horse lovers since they landed on this continent. It's no doubt. Right now, 5-Star Rodeo Holdings, Seminole in Florida, do a wonderful job. The Bowers and the Johns families. Del Hall, Cherokee from Oklahoma, has provided some of the best bulls. They won around on one of his bulls, Deal Me In, I think, in the bull riding. And he's had wonderful horses. Muddy Creek Pro Rodeo, Ogallala, Lakota, right there in interior South Dakota, down the road from me. Chancey Wilson and his family. There's generations of bucking horses throughout that Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Blackfeet in Montana, New West Rodeo Company, the Whitford family does a wonderful job. C5, First Nations of Canada, Cree excuse me, Tyson, and I apologize if I've missed any professional rodeo cowboys association stock contractors. And then they go to Indian reservations and find horses. Bernus Johnson, who had some of the best horses in the world, would secretly come up to the Dakotas. That was his trade secret. He wasn't trial and error back in the day before Bloodlines. He was up here. I'm looking at the snow in South Dakota now. Just they've had a reputation of loving their animals and especially the bucking horses. And so that it doesn't surprise me that they're so prominent. And then you talk about the vastness of the rodeo Indian country horses and bucking bulls. Excuse me. Here in the Dakotas alone, oh my gosh. John Yellowhawk, the Deal family, Sheen Deal and that gang. I mean, just right here in this area, there's half a dozen people that ride the long breaks on the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, Minnie Conju, Rosebud. You can just keep naming, and then go to the Northwest and Canada. It's naturally right that our American Indian and First Nations enjoy bucking horses and bulls.
Mm-hmm.
And then the timed events too. Man, talk about horsemen. Oh my goodness. Look at Derek Begay. He probably trained all his horses. And we have these cowboys, and I'd like to mention our Indian world champs and some of our PRCA guys here before we get done. But the stock contractors do a wonderful job. And you talk about work, my goodness, they start early and end late. But Chancey said the best way to become a millionaire as a stock contractor is to start with $3 million.
I'm curious. Can you tell right away if a young horse has what it takes to be a bucking horse, or is it something that can be taught or bred? How does that work?
Bloodlines, and they haven't come around. I mean, the first part of the century, there were a few people, the Kesslers and maybe Joe Berger from Canada and North Dakota and Montana with bloodlines. Took was a famous guy back in the day that started bloodlines. Like hunting dogs want to hunt, these horses want to buck. Now we're into generations of the bucking horses, and even the barrel racing horses have barrel racing bloodlines. They all used to come off the racetrack. But these bloodlines, there's a lot of love, a lot of patience, a lot of money, a lot of effort. And if you can imagine, they don't usually try these horses till they're 3 or 4 years old. That's expensive to keep a horse for 3 or 4 years. They put a dummy on its back and let it buck just a few. Well, first of all, Sparky Dreesen runs these horses in, my buddy J Bar J in Montana. He runs these horses in the chute 7 times a year, and that's all they do. Just let them get acclimated to being handled, just and let them out once or twice a year. And then when they're 3 or 4 year olds, they buck them with dummies on them and let them just barely buck, a few seconds, and then hit the button, and that dummy automatically releases, and they're rewarded by bucking that dummy off. And then they come, and then eventually there is a process, and it is long, and it takes patience to develop these horses and bulls.
Randy, earlier you mentioned Derek Begay, huge name in Indian rodeo. Give us an update on where he is at this point in his career, and some of the other top native rodeo athletes, and what you're looking at in terms of the future.
Can I start with the INFR champions?
Please do.
All right. October, Indian National Finals Rodeo. I believe it was possibly the 65th edition, and celebrated. It started in Utah and in Salt Lake in 1976. Our 2025 Indian National Finals Rodeo World Champions. Ogallala, Lakota, Cashton Ford, steer wrestling, Matt Jody, Navajo, breakaway roping, Megan Lunick, Blackfeet, saddle bronc riding, Creighton Curley, his second time, tie down roping, and all-around cowboy, Dalton Porch, Ogallala, Lakota. Team roping header, Josh Jumper, Seminole. Team roping, healer, Clay Gun Shows, Ipsalaga or Crow Nation. Barrel racing and all-around cowgirl, Aaron Jones of the Great Navajo Nation. Bull riding, Co-Brewer, Minnie Conju, Lakota. And if I may, Sean, I'd like to recognize our world champions in pro rodeo and how our Indian cowboys did. In the bareback bronc riding, Shane Steiner of Texas won the bareback bronc riding. He won $507,000. Jaco Roper, 2023 Indian National Finals rodeo champion, Cherokee of Oklahoma, finished 13th in the average and 14th in the world. He won $152,731.95. Jaco rides very, very well. Congratulations to Sam Peterson, the rookie from Montana, for winning the national finals 10 rounds, the aggregate. In the steer wrestling competition, first place, Tucker Allen from California. He won $398,000 plus. Chance Howard of Oklahoma, a Cherokee from Sallisaw, which is my home country, all the Taylors there. And my grandpa had the cabin there right by Blue Ribbon Downs in Sallisaw. He finished 13th in the average and 14th in the world. Chance Howard won $141,659. He didn't meet his expectations, had his first NFR, but he did qualify and place, and I am very proud of him for his composure and his class. Chance Howard, his wife, is an Indian National Finals rodeo barrel racer as well. In the team roping competition, Andrew Ward of Oklahoma and Jake Long of Kansas finished first and second in the 10th round, first in the average to win the 90,094 plus. They were first in the world standings, winning over 372,000. Derek Begay and his partner Coulter Todd. Derek Begay is special. He reminds me of Will Rogers. He is so sharp and so witty, but he's quiet. He's very quiet. If he talks, you want to listen because he's not going to say much. But what he says is really intriguing to me always. He has qualified for the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo 12 times. Last year, or year before last, he won. He beat the top 15 in 10 rounds. He won the coveted Wrangler National Finals Rodeo average. He got the saddle, got the buckle. He's from Sabadelki, Arizona. He follows great ropers in Navajo Nation. Eric Rogers, world champion. Aaron Senegini, world champion team ropers.
Okay.
And then he won $238,000 this year.
That's amazing. Randy, I mean, I'm imagining right now a young person is listening to this show and they're hearing these names, native athletes, successful native athletes, and they're probably thinking, geez, that could be me. 5, 10, 15 years. What does the sport offer? And what do you tell young people what they need to know in order to be successful in rodeo?
They need to be like our bronc rider, Zach Dallas, Ogallala, Lakota, that won $315,000 and develop their talent. I interviewed him, and he will be playing on Word with a Champion. I invite everyone to listen to this intense man. I don't care if you're a vacuum cleaner salesman. This guy has got it together. His mindset, his goal orientation, just the way he approaches his art is wonderful. He took advantage of his talent and went and got a college education. And then he qualified for the NFR once. And he was Rookie of the Year. He was the best of all the bronc riders in the country, representing Ogallala, Lakota. And then he went in and qualified this past week. And he won $60,324 in 10 days. And he didn't have his best finals. He will do more. I see a gold buckle on that guy sometimes. So I see, hopefully, inspiration from these people, not just in their mindset or to go get on a bronc. And not everybody's going to be a bull rider. You might want to be a doctor or I met a man the other day that builds bridges, and he's very good at that, and he has the same goal-oriented ideas. That's what I hope to see a young person listen to the mindset of people like not only our Indian cowboys, but Stetson Wright, the all-around champ of the world. I think it'll help them.
Sure. And Randy, the injuries, I think that's one aspect of rodeo that has a lot of people, kind of freaked out or apprehensive about this sport. How have you dealt with injuries throughout your career and even now that you're no longer competing? And how do people overcome those, or what are ways to minimize the risk of injury in the sport?
Well, I suppose you could go become a chiropractor, And the miracle of modern medicine is a blessing. And you forget pain, you know. This earth is populated because the ladies have forgotten pain, and it's a device of our Lord and Savior, and a loving and merciful God that we lose most of our cowboys on the road, getting to the rodeos. That's the most dangerous part about rodeoing is the all-night drives and the small planes. But they're not so bad anymore. We haven't had any tragedies in a long time. You have to overcome the fear of failure, which is as devastating and demanding and challenging as the fear of getting hurt. And once you do get hurt, you have to make a decision. Is this what you want to do? And before you step in to that occupation, you need to be sure that you are committed. Is this what you want to do? Lane Frost is a good example of that. He was committed, and that's what he wanted to do. So, and then if you want to, you have got to rehab and you have got to stay in shape. Well, the first thing is stay on top. You don't get hurt. So let's keep both hands on the wheel, buckle your seatbelt, don't drink and drive, have plenty of coffee and black licorice, and let's go.
Randy, what's next for you? I mean, obviously, Word with a Champ is going to continue for many, many more years, many interviews to come. But what about you personally? I know you're happily married, and you've got other interests as well.
Well, you hit that on the head. That's what I was going to say. My daughter my 13-year-old has a Christmas program tonight, and we did that last night, and that's the most important thing in my life. My beautiful wife, Carmen, has served our country for so many years and has in the United States Armed Forces, and they're the most important things to me. I have learned to put my priorities in order, and I want to work on being the best person that I can be. Job 28:28, I always pray for wisdom and understanding, and I think I'm saying this right, that wisdom is the fear of God and understanding is following his directions. And I want to commit my life to doing that and living the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And then I put my family first. And upon that, then my business can fall into order when my home is in order. It's challenging, I mean, sports entertainment is very competitive, and we have got to be on top of our game. And if it's not right at home, it's not right on the road. And so that's my goal, is to be the best father and the best husband that I can be, and the best person, and the best, the person that Christ-like person, the person that God wants me to be. And that's what I have in mind. And then, of course, my wife and I, we have a little production company called Wahoo Event Productions and Announcing, where I'm booked with my announcing jobs. And then we produce a bull riding or a Indian relay race, a bullfight, maybe a bronc match, and motorsports, freestyle motocross and such. And then my announcing career and try to serve as a good person out there in the big wide world.
Randy, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show and to talk with you. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm happy for you and all of your success.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine, and I'd like to wish everyone a very, very Merry Christmas.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for our conversation with Randy Taylor today. But, of course, you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads, or our website, NativeAmericaCalling.com. Post, comment, tell us what you like about this show. And remember, you can hear all episodes of Word with a Champ and NFR Reports on the NV1 app. Please join us again tomorrow for a conversation about a threat to historic buildings and places. I'm Sean Spruce. You've been listening to the one, the only Native America Calling.
Skugtash. For more than 40 years, Ramona Farms has revived ancient traditional foods, tepary beans, pinoli, polentas, and more, all from store.ramonafarms.com. Ramona Farms supports this show. Omnie.
Now more than ever, the supporters of this and all Native Voice One programs deserve a little extra love. Learn more about all our public radio underwriters and web-based sponsors at koahnic.org/sponsors-spotlight. Every family caregiver could use help finding the necessary resources to care for their loved one. The AARP Family Caregiver Resource Guide helps family caregivers access key programs, services, and agencies in their communities. A copy of the guide is available by calling 877-333-5885 or online at aarp.org/caregiver-resources. AARP supports this show.
Native America Calling is produced in the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation, a Native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.